Hello, everybody.
Hey.
I am so excited. We'll give it a second to everyone to like shuffle in and such. Okay. Fun question while we wait. Is what kind of virtual classes do you think are you taking this year, or have you seen that you want to take?
I have been taking some cooking classes, which are very fun, but also very messy. And the smells that permeate my kitchen just like they just linger forever. So like the cooking is not my favorite, but I have signed up for a composting class that I'm super excited about in the spring. So that should be fun.
What does that entail? Like where to put rotting food?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like a matter of learning, what can you compost, where you should put your compost bin, how to maintain and care for it, because putting a pile of food out in the yard in a rural area is only going to like recruit varmints and other critters. So
varmints.
Yeah, varmints.
Your Indiana is showing, I think.
It is. It is. That's why I changed the critters to be more appealing.
That is, do you garden? Is that why you like want to have like the soil? Oh,
yeah. And prior to COVID, we had sort of stopped gardening because we were my husband and I were both traveling so much, and now we're not. So we're going to be back in the garden game this spring, and cool. That means having quality compost will improve that garden. So that should be fun. Okay. How about you? Any fun classes?
So I feel like we haven't taken any, but I have been seeing all of these like cocktail classes. Like I have so many friends are taking these like cocktail making classes, and I know there's a place near here called The Last Word that like will send you a kit. I'm probably explaining this incorrectly, but they'll send you like a kit of everything you need to like make the cocktail. It might be without like the liquor portion, but like all the things. And then you can like, they have them pretty late at night too. So you can do it like after the kids go to bed and all that stuff and like make some fancy cocktails. But I've gotten a hot tip that a lot of people, they'll send you enough for however many tickets you bought. So a lot of people are like, you should buy like 4 tickets so that like, you eat 2 drinks. And I was like, that's a hot tip.
I like that tip.
Like, you get one like good drink and you're drinking and you're like, Oh, that's it.
I love that. I love that.
Back to Brooks wine. Not fancy anymore. Okay, cool. We'll get the official thing started. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cackle. This is Entry Point's weekly interview series, and where we highlight small businesses, startups, and people that are having an impact on our communities. Today, we're talking about accessing capital to make our communities more vibrant. And so if you have questions or resources or shout outs or like a link to something that we reference that you want people to be able to access, just like throw it in the comments and we'll see it. And then joining us today is Bridget Anderson, the lovely Bridget Anderson, who's the director of Patronicity.
Yeah, so glad to be chatting with you today, Emily. It's good to see your face and connect.
Yeah, I'm a fangirl of Patronicity, so I'm very pumped to have you on. And I guess to start out, what it would be good if you could kind of give an overview of like what like peer-to-peer lending or like what crowdfunding is for like people who are watching who are like, I don't get, just to have a level set in the beginning there.
Yeah, no, it's important to level set. So crowdfunding is not a replacement for traditional funding, but it's a way to extend your reach. So basically, you're creating online campaigns to inspire people to donate to a project or to just invest in a company or entity. And so Patronicity is a crowdfunding platform that specializes in creative placemaking projects, but crowdfunding isn't really new. It's an over, I think at this point, $11 billion industry of activating a lot of people and casting a very wide net to get, typically you see small investments. So our average donation is between $100 and $250, but if you invite, 100 people to give that amount, you're gonna make some money and get your project done quicker. So it's really just activating your personal and just in general networks to help you get investment for whatever projects that you have in mind. And so, yeah, it's pretty powerful work that engages community members. The reason we have this name called Patronicity, it is a made-up word, but we believe communities should have a buy-in and in say what happens to their communities and their public spaces. And they're really patrons of small businesses, of communities. And so we should really think of our neighbors and friends as investors and donors, because they are more likely to care, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I feel like that really is like so critical in accessing capital for projects like that, or even just for things that people are like kicking off, because it just seems like there's not enough places these days for people to like get capital in order to do like these really important things. So I guess tell us a little bit more about Patronicity, like what types of businesses the organization serves, like how things have been going this year, like all of that.
Yeah. So we ourselves are a small business. We started out of Detroit in the recession, and our co-founders really had this vision for creating vibrant communities, because we know that individuals who have great ideas just needed to be connected to that capital. And so we typically support nonprofits, but also we've been able to support small businesses because of COVID-19, which is really exciting. And it's small businesses of any kind. We helped a community, we helped fund community gardens, but it's also fun because we helped a local IT company, right? So anyone and everyone can do it, which is great. But we also, we coined this term crowd granting, which is been really powerful for us. We've worked with funders and granting entities in states across the country to incentivize donors to give, and to make sure those granting entities' investment dollars go even further. Yeah. And it's been really powerful work. So we serve a couple of granting programs. We can serve small businesses. We also, our typical, what we call project creators, are just individuals and communities who have good ideas. We've disrupted the typical granting process and the typical funding model to get money in the hands of those who need it. So we cast a wide net ourselves.
How is how does the grant matching portion work? So like, let's say like an economic development organization like MEDC or like a foundation was like, how does that, they give you guys money and then you figure out who to give it to, or how does that work?
Yeah. So because we're a crowdfunding platform, we use technology to help with that. So basically our campaigns are really designed to be applications for grant funds, which again makes those grant funds even more accessible to individual community members. So basically, an individual has an idea, they build a campaign page. We determine if they meet the standards and qualifications for the grant with the granting entity. And then that granting entity can utilize our platform to quickly and easily approve the campaigns. And then the campaigns will run for 30 to 60 days. And typically our grants are dependent on that specific project meeting its goal. So it's a match, right? So if your goal is $10,000 and you raise $10,000, you get $10,000, which, doubles that investment and makes even more exciting things happen in communities. And our granting partners really like it. It expedites their process. It shows powerful community engagement. Our campaigns can get money from anyone as well, small businesses, civics organizations. And so what we've seen is it creates this like exciting momentum and energy, because sometimes folks come to us and they think like nothing cool is happening here. And then they, invest $50 into a campaign, and that campaign, it does a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But it will end up creating a project, and these are real people in real places. And that is really impactful for those investment dollars for folks like MEDC and our partners at the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority and some of our other programs.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like I really like the matching model when it comes to like economic development too, because it's like leading by like whether the market decides that this is a good product, or whether like subject matter experts decide that this is like a good thing, if it's in the case of like tech companies or something, like if they're able to raise like venture capital. So like the state or like a local economic development organization being able to kind of say like, look, if this is a need of the community, then we will help support. And then that helps them raise more money too. So I'm always like a fan of more matching programs.
Yeah.
Listening.
For our partners, we talk about this a lot, but the community is the review committee. And I love that. I think that's and also the opportunity that these partners have, these granting entities have to basically get their matched, right? And sometimes they can be part of really large, big scale projects. And that has even more opportunity for those granting entities. Yeah, I love it. It's all the feel good stuff that I think sometimes when you talk about economic development and investment, you kind of lose the importance of people, and people are exactly why spaces thrive or they don't. And so our platform really understands that it takes people and to have the creative ideas. It takes people to get the work done. And so why not have your people become your investors and donors, and their donation can multiply because they can utilize the platform to quickly and easily share. So then they become fundraisers. So the possibilities are really endless for what people can do when they come together around a concept or a campaign.
Yeah, I really like that. That is really cool. How did you get to Patronicity? Like where were you before? Or like what?
Yeah, my background, I've been all over the place. As far as career path, and I've been on a couple career panels, and I've sort of struggled to describe my trajectory, but I think that's pretty authentic for most people. Their trajectory is not really smooth, but I studied political science at Indiana University. I'm a lifelong Hoosier who never thought they would stay here, but place is so important to me. And so I worked in politics for a bit. I supported some elected officials, worked on a couple campaigns, and really had a passion for public service and community engagement, and just kind of bounced around trying to find what made sense. So I worked at an organization called Breakthrough Collaborative. Want to shout them out. They are really disrupting education. So I'm big fan of folks that are disrupting systems. And so I worked there for a bit. And then what drew me to Patronicity and this work is Patronicity actually helped with a project in my hometown. So there was an empty little walkthrough. And because of a successful Patronicity campaign, my community was able to add these beautiful pergolas and outdoor fireplace and really cultivate a community space. And so seeing that impact firsthand, I was like, okay, I need to know what these folks are up to and how I can help.
Yeah.
And so in bringing my sort of experience, my experience with community engagement and serving with elected officials, and also just understanding the challenges of fundraising, Patronicity is such a good fit because I can make a difference, and I can see those outcomes really quickly and really in a way that inspires somebody who's a little altruistic like myself.
Yeah, that's nice. Man, working in politics, I don't know, I would not make it. Lord.
Yeah, I went in because, I believe in public service, and I have seen beautiful change happen from folks who are leaders and ran campaigns. But, sometimes it's easy to get jaded quickly and kind of realize there might be better ways to do things. Though I'm still very passionate about.
Like, what would that be called? Like an anarchist? You're like, I think we should just blow this whole thing up.
Yeah, or just, casually disrupt or, bring ideas to the forefront that inspire people. I think that's part of it. And I think sometimes that's why people go into politics. At least that's what I did, because I wanted to see change. And there's lots of ways to create change.
Yeah, I feel like we talked a lot about like working in politics. Like my friend Carrie, who's worked in politics for like ever and like loves it and is just like really passionate about like people who are really stepping forward, which I guess is like how politics is supposed to be. Like people who are like stepping forward into a leadership role to like really make change in their community. So I guess that totally makes sense how you ended up at Patronicity to be like, all the things.
All the things.
So we do a lot of, I don't know if you know what we do. We do a lot of, you're like, I don't.
No, I do.
This is now my interview. So we do a lot of research. You didn't know I was inviting so anyway, so we do a lot of research on like the small business community, startup community, kind of like the economy. And a lot of times, like different groups we're working with are regionally focused and are wondering about access to capital for businesses and groups within their communities and kind of where do they go to get capital and like where are there some like pain points there where they're like good businesses aren't able to access the capital that they need to continue operating and hiring people and growing and all that. And so one of the recent studies that we did, there was only 2% of businesses that obtained outside funding through crowdfunding platforms like Patronicity. But there's so many access to capital issues in many communities. Yeah. And so and I think one of the larger things that we see too is that especially in communities where there's lower income levels, one of the avenues that people frequently go to get capital is their like peers in their community and like the people that they work with and their families and friends, and that path to capital is like not available to them in communities. And so it does seem like crowdfunding could be fitting in there. How do companies decide if like crowdfunding is the route for them to raise funds versus like them just like going to a bank or to an investor, or like how do you view all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And when we began our small business relief efforts, we actually saw some small businesses were really struggling to raise money or to feel comfortable asking for money to their community because they'd always been in the role of people coming to them like, hey, can you sponsor my local baseball team? And so flipping that around and asking the community for money was uncomfortable for some folks. But what we found is really that I think there's a lot. So one, crowdfunding is really hyper local. And so what that means for you as somebody who's getting investors, the risk is really only in how you meet your goal. It's not as speculative because you probably have more information about your community's wealth than you would, an investor or banker. And so I like to say like really the only risk in trying a crowdfunding campaign is being able to meet your goal. And we are different than typical platforms because we provide coaching and strategy guides, which provides that technical assistance that a small business might need if they're not used to telling the story of what their needs are. We also found that, with our campaigns, you creating lasting personal connections that a lot of times you don't know the benefits from until, 5-10 years from now. Because if somebody's, frequenting your business, donating $100 to your campaign, but then starts frequenting your business, that has a lot more return of investment than, just a loan. Also, you're diversifying your portfolio, for lack of better terms, like basically instantly. We had a campaign that just finished that had over 500 donors. And we've had campaigns that had up to 2,000 donors. And so now you're basically, in addition to getting investment from a lot of different people, you're also, I think what I really like about our approach is that those folks are now potentially the folks you're marketing to as well, right? Yeah. So you use that donor information to continue to connect and share that connection. And then, one of the things that I think is important because of COVID-19 and why we had the small business relief effort is that funding sources change, and having to navigate them can be very, very difficult. We helped raise over $2 million in a matter of months, but those dollars went directly in the hands of those small businesses that needed them. And that is invaluable. Many of these businesses said that they were able to keep their doors open. They were able to adapt to COVID-19 by buying PPE and all of those things. And rather than waiting, 6 months to a year, which a business might have to do with the loan, or, depending on the timing of other larger big funding sources, businesses were able to be like, no, here are the 5 things I need right now. I need $5,000 for payroll this month. I need, $2,000 to pay for PPE. I need, a new computer system to be able to process online orders. And that created, powerful change really quickly.
Yeah. Do the, once a company raises money through Patronicity, do they then have like email addresses of all of the people, or do they like still have to go through the platform in order to like communicate to those people?
Yeah, so we actually allow campaigns to download the donor information, and our page stays up in perpetuity. So we also have an update feature on our platform that allows you to communicate directly with your donors. So if you have a grand opening, or if you have a new series of discounts, that folks can continue that communication. And so, that's why I think that lasting personal connection is really meaningful.
That's one of the things we've been just in the last few months talking to small business owners that they've had trouble with, is that I think a lot of people are like, oh, if you go to Amazon, you can still shop at small businesses. They just list themselves on Amazon as a way to reach their customers. But then a lot of small businesses have told us how it's hard because Amazon purposely puts a wall up between them and their customers, which a lot of times and businesses, it's all about building loyalty within your community and with your customers and things like that. And they're and then it's you don't know who they are anymore. They're buying stuff on Amazon, and Amazon's taking 15%. And then I'm I'm about to get bombed by Jeff Bezos.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're safe.
I always just said his last name wrong, which is probably the ultimate insult. He's
I'm sure he's watching.
He probably watches all of us. He's watching my computer right now. He's got people for that. So it's that's nice, a really nice feature that you guys have, that they're able to raise this funding that they wouldn't be able to access anyway, but then are actually able to talk to their customers.
And they don't necessarily have to wait. We did some really cool things where instead of waiting to draw down the full amount of the amounts that they were raising online, we did earlier drawdowns, so folks got the money quicker. I mean, you don't get that with Amazon. I don't think you can. Yeah.
Systems join our system and then it'll be great for you, I'm sure. And then you're wait a second.
And as a small business ourselves, we have a triple bottom line. So, the profits are important to us, but ultimately we're not just in this for making money, because, as I'm saying this to other business folks, but the bottom line is important, but if we can make sure that the decisions that we're making as a company are benefiting our environment and our communities, then we win, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like that. And then I guess Patronicity would be a specific type of like community focused business or
Yep.
COVID help during this time for the community. But there's like other platforms that like people who are like outside of COVID times, like there's definitely like crowdfunding seems to be like a pretty cool path for accessing capital from like peers. And definitely seems to be a way that people are able to access capital now that they don't have to necessarily go to a bank or try to find angel investors or things like that.
Yeah, and the other thing to point out there is I think even traditional funding sources are having to rethink how they give out money, and not only how they give out money, but like I just don't think that, like, think of I don't have a very good example here, but like maybe a community foundation who has a rolling endowment and they give out the money once a year. And sometimes it's hard to navigate that because you need to know exactly who to talk to, and you have to have multiple conversations, and the application is long. And then
I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened over here.
But I think in our culture and society, we don't want things to take that long. I mean, to be quite frank, and some things should, right? But some things don't have to. And that's kind of where we've come in.
How do people go about figuring out like what crowdfunding platform is like best for their company? Is that like a thing that people struggle with, or can they just really like go to these websites and easily find out?
From my perspective, I recommend you look at success rates. So some crowdfunding platforms have like 3% success rate.
3% have actually met their fundraising goal.
Oh. Yes. Ooh. Yeah. And for us,
names.
I know.
I was like,
don't do it. But they're not good. And I think, when you're thinking about what you need in a crowdfunding platform, think about your skills and think about those success rates. For me personally, I have like a 95% success rate with campaigns, because we have a review process. We have critical guides that literally make crowdfunding a step-by-step process. I always like to say this because it sounds bougie, but creating a public narrative, creating literally a campaign page is, people have studied this. Marshall Gans is a Harvard professor who talks about the public narrative, but he breaks that down really easily. How do you sell something? It's, what are you doing? Why is it important, and how people can help? And so we can help you craft those narratives and tell that story because of our experience, and because we, and sometimes we've had folks come to us that want to raise money, and we're like, I don't think they're ready. I don't think they're in a place to ask for this. And then also, if you're not able to kind of follow our steps, that would also, rule you out from running a successful campaign. So, I would recommend people think about what your needs are. If you're an experienced fundraiser, maybe not. But if you don't have a ton of experience, going to a platform that doesn't have a high success rate means you're just going to be one of their, a million campaigns that are going.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. I like that. And what are you seeing are most critical to like founders and small businesses right now? Or projects like within the community? What are you guys getting like?
Yeah, I think it's capacity. I just think people don't have the heart, head, and brain space to like, really do all of the things they want to do. And so, picking just one or two things and doing them really well has been really, really critical. even for our work, our team is really strapped because we're working really hard to support, small businesses and main streets and communities. And that's great. That's exciting. But, stepping back and kind of reviewing like, okay, what are we doing really well? Let's ensure that all of our team is working on that one thing rather than trying to answer all the emails and getting, all of the projects done at once. I also think one of the things that we've learned right now is that our communities are pretty resilient and innovative. And so you shouldn't really try not to look too far and hard for the next best great thing. Do the next right thing, right? So if for you it's not as sexy as somebody else, that's good enough.
Yeah, I like that. We were talking like just before going live too about just like capacity and like a mental weight of everything. And I feel like it's really hard to measure like how like you'll feel like you're doing good and you've got enough sleep and you're kind of like balancing things, and then something just like tips it off. Like this year is like a lot of things, like a lot of
it's real wobbly.
Things taking up space in everyone's brains. So I feel like it's kind of like you don't realize until you realize. Like you have like some sort of public freak out and everyone's like, well, that's awkward. I yelled at a Jets guy once. It was really this is admitting way too much. But I was picking up a pizza and it was probably like right in the very beginning of the pandemic when it was like, who knows what's happening? And we were like, are we even getting pizza? Is that okay? Like, you're one place it's okay to get a carry out, and other places where they're like wipe down the box, and other places are like you're not going to get at their food kind of thing. And so, like, the Jets guy came out and he wanted to hand me the pizza, and I was like, put it in the car. Like what? And then I got home and I was like, that was a painful moment of 2020. Like I just love that guy.
We don't want you to snap anymore, Emily. We really don't.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that is like it's just with like the small business community and like with a lot of the projects that like you guys are working on that like need to get done and are like important to the community, that like, being careful and mindful of people's like mental energy. Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah.
Always important, but we're just reminded of it right now.
Yeah, exactly. True. Okay, what's like to end kind of on a higher note than me yelling at this guy? Is what is something you are most proud of personally or professionally that took place in 2020?
Yeah, this is this is lengthy, I'm guessing, because I think I'm most proud of our team and our ability to adapt, because this year we not only started the small business relief, but we launched a consulting firm called Bench that's designed to meet communities where they are, because we want to help bring our years of placemaking experience to help folks really recreate things. And then, of course, we launched Winter Places, the Winter Places Guide, which is just a compilation of really creative things communities can do to activate their spaces in winter. And my colleague, Jonathan Burke, has really led that effort. And when he did a webinar when COVID-19 first hit, and he said, we don't have a playbook for how to respond to all of this. We're writing it now. And I'm so proud at what we've written so far. I'm proud that we also launched a podcast. So we threw ourselves into the fire, and I'm really, really proud of our team for stepping up when it could have been easier to just check out. So I think that's what I'm most proud of. And we're just continuing to be inspired and innovate, and that's hard enough in a normal time.
And then I'm like, I gotta find that winter thing. How do I find it?
Yeah, Winter Places. So if you go to benchconsulting.co/winter places, and it's pretty fun. there are some really great ideas. There's the Snowed In project I really like, where you like take your snow mounds and create like a light show and a dance party. And then there's really simple ideas. We had a project in LaPorte, Indiana. They created a Chris Kendall market. They actually used our platform to raise funds, and they've successfully had this beautiful outdoor event where they required masks, but they had a nice little ice rink, and they allowed local vendors to sell their wares outside in the winter. So
yeah, that is like in the my stepdad's German, and we would like go to Germany sometimes for Christmas, and it is like a big thing, like outdoor markets, like drink the mead. That's like an important German. Yes. You drink the mead.
Yeah, and we found inspiration from Scandinavian countries, and we've talked to the folks in Canada who do some of these things really well. It's been a really fun journey to see all of these creative designs, and we put them out there to designers, and they showed up with awesome designs really quickly. So yeah, we're going to continue to try to create vibrancy in our communities despite what's been happening. And we know that communities are really receptive to that because they want something to look forward to and be hopeful.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great note. I love that for the end. And it's so exciting that this is our 40th episode and our last episode of 2020. So you're like taking us out on a high note for the entire year.
Well, happy 40th, and let's celebrate the passing of 2021.
I love that. Yeah. Great. Well, it was so good talking to you. I'm like super excited to check out more about Patronicity.
Yeah, please do. Patronicity.com.
Yay. And I'm sure I will talk to you more soon.
Wonderful. Thanks, Emily. Take care.
See you.
Be well.
You too.